Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of November 2023. I hope you are well. I'm using the Crow Tarot for you today. And before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. So you can watch for your moon sign, you can watch for your ascendant, you can cross-watch for someone else. It's entirely up to you. And you also have the benefit of hanging out with a really extraordinary group of people. So if that sounds like it's something that will be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. Right, Virgo, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for Virgo, please? There's the first one. We have the 4 of Swords in your recent past. What about current energy for Virgo, please? 2, we've got Judgment, and we've got the Ace of Cups for where you are right now. And what's coming towards Virgo, please? We've got the Queen of Wands, and I like this very much for you because there's somewhat of an emergent quality, I think, about the cards that we're seeing on the table already. Obviously, we're going to pull some clarifiers. We're going to dig into this a little bit more. But the 4 of Swords here is kind of like an underlying peace, an underlying level of settlement that one has achieved within oneself. But there's a pushing towards something. It's almost like you're breaking through something here in this current moment that we find ourselves in. That's like literally as you're watching this. Into something altogether much more visible in the future. Excuse the microphone, I'm having to put it right next to my fucking mouth so that people can hear it, apparently. I don't think it's anything to do with the volume of the videos. I think it's the tones that my voice sits at. So short of becoming very, very shrill, there isn't really anything I can do about it, save bring the microphone closer and closer and closer. But anyway, ranting aside, there's a pushing through. There's an emergence into a much more visible version of you. And we're going to use the Triple Goddess to clarify and see what this is all about for you. Because, like I said, that Judgment seems to be a kind of pinnacle moment for you. And it's happening right now. And it's happening in relation to the way that you feel about yourself. It's probably been a long time coming, Virgo. Let's have a look. Tell me about the 4 of Swords, please. Thank you. We have the 9 of Wands. And the Tower. Interestingly, I've just had 2 cards topple out to the side. We've got the Moon and the Queen of Wands. I'm not going to take those, but I'm going to show you them and put them back in the deck. Tell me about Judgment and the Ace of Cups, please. 4 of Wands, Page of Wands, and the 10 of Cups. And tell me about the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands, please. Knight of Swords. And we've got the 6 of Pentacles with the Knight of Wands now at the bottom of the deck. I'll just shimmy that along a little bit so that you can see it. So this is what we're working with this month, Virgo. And I do seem to have been giving the signs a bit of a bollocking so far, but I don't think I'm going to need to do that with you at all. To be fair, I didn't actually have to do it with Aquarius either. But some of the other signs I did. The first thing that really jumps out from the cards on the table is just how incongruent the Judgment card and the Tower card seem in relation to the other cards that are on the table. And it's not so much even the fact that, all of these cards are considered positive and these 2 cards here are somewhat more difficult. I mean, that's the only major arcana cards on the table, so we can intuit from that without too much difficulty that you are undergoing somewhat of a seismic shift at the moment. And I feel like it's internally generated, and this is the important thing. I've mentioned before how I think that one of the things that makes life really hard for Virgo is just how sensitive you are to your own environment. And so it sort of brings you to a place where, because you cannot settle ever, because there's something in the environment that is a source of agitation to you, you never have an opportunity to just vibe, just sit with who you are and make big decisions about where you are going to move forwards, because there's always something that's just nagging, something that feels uncomfortable, that you're either trying to move away from, or you're trying to work out why it's agitating you in the way that it is. The fact that the Four of Swords is appearing straight off means, to me, I think that you have found some way of curating a space for you where your thoughts can, well, your thoughts and everything about you actually can exist without agitation. We see it here with the Nine of Wands, in so much as, you know, the Nine of Wands represents a boundary that has been drawn around your sacred inner space. I was talking to Aquarius, interestingly enough, about inner sanctums, and I'm seeing shades of that here for you. You know, I mean, we can't go very far without talking about the cave, where Virgo is concerned, and the necessity of the cave to represent some sort of inner sanctum for you. But often it's been a place that you retreat to protect yourself against the outside world. And I think what you're starting to understand is that your inner sanctum actually doesn't have to just exist within here. You can also have it be expressed outside of you. And so how that looks will be different for each of you. But it feels like, rather than being agitated or frightened of or irritated by your environment, you're taking that kind of peace that you found inside of yourself and you're kind of overlaying it to your environment. So everything around you is getting this kind of peaceful sweep from Virgo. Excuse me. And you, in your entirety, are feeling considerably more peaceful than you have done in a while, I think. I love this depiction of the Nine of Wands that we've got here in the corner, because rather than someone leaning on their wand, all bandaged up and, you know, looking a little battle-worn, we've got somebody who is tending to a garden. We've got somebody who is putting in the effort to make something beautiful here. And so suddenly the appearance of the Tower and the appearance of the Judgment card seem less incongruent than they did before. Because what they are doing is giving you the space that you have needed for a very long time to start making very big decisions about where it is that you are going to from here, from this point on. I think for Virgo, it's been a rocky road for the last 3 years. It has really been a rocky road. And sometimes you have not been able to put one foot in front of the other. Sometimes you've literally just sat where you are and gone, everything can fuck off. It doesn't feel good to be me, to be here where I am right now. This inner generated peace, this careful, mindful tending to the boundary, I think is opening you up to the possibility that you can make some really, really big life-changing decisions, actually, here and now, and you are safe in doing so. Now, the safety isn't because suddenly everything around you is, you know, all the sharp edges are covered in cotton wool or anything like that. There's a sense of personal expansion that means now that you are safe no matter where you are and what you're doing, because you have become bigger, you have become stronger. There's a certain fortitude that I'm seeing right the way through this that is supporting the idea, at least, if not the action of a big change for you. Whenever the Tower comes up, there's the possibility of some sort of geographical relocation. But it also speaks of a shaking loose, and it's funny, that's the thing that came up in the meditation before I started your reading. It was a shaking up, a shaking loose of certain things that have tethered you before. Now, obviously, when we're talking in those kind of terms, it seems a little bit more abstract than, hey, Virgo, you're planning on moving house, or you're planning on moving country or state or something like that. But I get a feeling here that you're starting to develop awareness of the extent to which you can influence your environment and your plans moving forwards. I feel like you're taking a step back and looking at a bigger picture here, Virgo. That's coming through really, really strong. Now, Virgo rules microscopy, right? It's about the detail of things, and often Virgos can get lost in the detail of things, but it's also correspondingly actually a bit of a superpower, because you spot things that other people don't. Oh, Lord. Okay, so this is becoming a bit of a theme across the readings that I have been doing, whether I've been bollocking signs or not, as it seems to be. Discernment is very, very strong here. I've been talking extensively about how we have seemingly been going from one extreme to another, right? So we've been doing something one way our entire life, and suddenly we get a message from the universe that we're actually in a state to be able to accept that says, no, sign, insert sign here, this is not the way, right? You are actually just perpetuating a default here, and in order for you to grow and in order for you to expand and become bigger, you need to experiment with doing things a little bit differently. And what happens is we tend to swing the pendulum, a considerable distance the other way, and experience life at a different extreme over there. And then we're like, whew, that was a bit much, but I've grown in the process, I understand. And from that point on, sometimes that can be our default. The messages that seem to be coming through, well, there are many messages that are coming through, but the theme that seems to be coming through for all of the signs this month is discernment, understanding that there is a center point, there is a middle ground that we are all capable of occupying. And the extremes are very useful because, well, they give us a lot of information, right? They give us a lot of experience, but ultimately it is for us to hold that in a center place so that moving forwards, no matter what situation is in front of us, we can decide whether we need to shimmy a little bit to the left or we need to shimmy a little bit to the right, but we don't need to stay at the extremes of either end. Now, excuse me. The biggest problem that you've always had with the cave is the fact that it is somewhere that you snap back to. When things get really, really hard, it's kind of like, I'm going to go and hide in here, thank you, until you all fuck off and leave me alone. Just over here. Or even, whatever problem there is out there, fucks off and leave me alone. Or sometimes it's when you're looking at a situation and you can't see beyond the smaller and smaller aspects of things, right? And become very critical about what it is that you're finding. This idea of stepping back, which for you would be shimmying a few steps to the left or to the right, whichever way you want to look at it, and seeing the bigger picture, doesn't feel like it's something that you woke up with a few days ago and went, oh shit, I've been focusing on the wrong thing, I need to step back a little bit and take in the entire vista. It feels like it's been slowly accumulating over a period of time for you, where you're finding yourself perhaps a little less interested in the detail of things and more interested in what the point of the detail is. What is it pointing you towards? Now, the tower is about pulling things down, right, for sure, but ultimately at its core what it's talking about is a redirection. It's where, and I think that this is very personally directed, Virgo, rather than the universe coming in and kicking you in the shins and running away, sniggering behind its hand. This feels self-directed, personally instigated. If I am not staring at the microscopy of the situation, if I can allow myself even just for a moment to turn around and look at what's behind me, then suddenly everything has been recontextualized. And it's this recontextualization that I feel is helping you now see a bigger picture than you did before. And the bigger picture might simply be, what do you want from the rest of your existence? You have had experiences and you can't change that. What you can change is the way that you choose to respond to them on the daily, right? And this is where the discernment comes in. What does this situation right in front of me need? And how much of past baggage am I carrying with me that I'm actually using to obscure the bigger picture here? So this Judgment card with the Ace of Cups being a renewal of something, and we can talk about this card in terms of new love, right? New relationships, new people turning up, and that's all very lovely and fluffy and woolly and unicorns and rainbows and all that sort of thing. But it's not what fundamentally is important, because it doesn't matter how many new people come into your life, right? They're going to come to you at the vibration that you're at. So if you're kind of like, I don't like anything that's going on at the moment, and I literally had this conversation with my partner this morning, like, I'm not feeling, sorry for myself, but fucking hell, when does it stop being so hard? Just out of interest, like, I'd like to know, is there an expiration date on this, or does it just keep going? I don't know. It is fundamentally about the relationship that you hold with yourself, because it is through that lens that everything else is seen, and it is at that vibration that everybody else approaches. So I'm not going to tell you that there's somebody wonderful coming in who might be, an Aries or a Scorpio or something like that, although if they are, congratulations, that's very good. There's something deeper, something more fundamental going on here, right? Big picture, little detail, for sure. If we can find a way to join the two so that there is a conversation going on here betwixt the detail and how it informs the bigger picture. And what we've got is you feeling about yourself a particular kind of way. And I would say a way that makes you feel empowered enough to start making big fucking changes. Particularly if your environment has been a little bit vexatious, kind of like, well, I've crafted a little bit of peace here. But you know what? I'd like a bigger bit of peace. I'd like more of that kind of energy around. So what can I do on a bigger level to facilitate that? You've got two cards here that speak in the various ways to comfort and home and things that make us feel safe. With the Four of Wands and the Ten of Cups. But crucially, what we see in the Four of Wands is the creation of a new foundation. So taking into account what you know about the microscopy of the situation, at an atomic level, what this situation is about. Additionally, we also have a bigger picture. I can't change what has been. I cannot change what has gone before. I can absolutely change the way that I think about it. And I can absolutely vow that moving forwards, I want my life to contain more of these kind of energies than these. Now, as I'm always saying, the Tower is actually immensely positive, but it rarely feels like that when it hits. 90% of the time when the Tower hits, you're like, oh fuck, things are awful. But the best kind of towers aren't really towers at all. In so much as they're taking that sudden, unexpected, shocking energy, which is externally applied, right? Some sort of external situation that comes and affects us personally. They are, in fact, those situations where we go, I feel empowered, emboldened to shake things up and do things a little bit differently. Now, I don't think that there's any danger of you becoming, for example, a Sagittarius who perhaps to a degree is only able to see the big picture and gets bored by details, can't really engage with details. I mean, they can certainly become a little bit more detail oriented than they currently find themselves, but But you can take in shades of that. And particularly when it comes down to the detail of how you want to experience being you moving forwards. Because this Page of Wands, the initiatory step, the first step on a journey that is going to take you all over the place, right? For sure. I often say like that feels to me more like the excitement, right? You book a holiday, right? You're very excited. I've just booked a holiday. It's really, really exciting, right? But it's at some point in the future. And over the course of a bit of time, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, something like that, that initial excitement about the thing starts to go off the boil a little bit because, yeah, you booked it and it's exciting. It's something that's now been factored into your future. You know that this is going to happen. But there's a little bit of distance between the point where you weren't going on holiday and you were. And that little bit of distance is just enough to take the edge off. It's just enough to take the shine off. And now it's like, yeah, but I've got to wait 6 months, maybe 8 months before I actually go to experience that thing. And you kind of forget about it and you get on with the other stuff, right? And then it gets to a point where you're maybe like 3 weeks out and you're like, oh, holy shit, I'm going on holiday in 3 weeks. That's really exciting. Oh, I better do some sort of planning, some sort of, packing my case and working out what it is that I need. I need to go buy some sun cream. Maybe I need a new bikini, something like that, right? And that excitement begins to build again. Now, that's just one example, and it's not, you're not all going on holiday or anything like that, but it's about the way that the energy presents. Now, it can also be about creativity. It can be about passion. It can be about discovering something that gives you that same frisson of, oh, things are about to change. I'm about to have a new adventure. And this new adventure, this new feeling is foundational, but it's involving you kind of breaking up something that has already existed because, and this is really, really strong, because you feel empowered to do so. Now, this might be with people, it might be with family, it might be all that sort of thing. But that 10 of Cups actually really is speaking to me about safety more than anything else. And where the cave used to represent the safety, that was the only place that you felt safe. And sometimes even the things that were unsafe managed to inveigle their way into that cave. You feel to me a little bit like you're pushing back, Virgo. You want to expand. It's kind of like, no, all this shit that's been encroaching on me for the longest time, I'm actually going to push back and I'm going to bring some of my Virgo energy to everything. I need to take a look at the bigger picture. Are you a drop of water in the ocean, or are you the ocean contained in a drop? It's like the realization that you are a perfect representation of the ocean in you, in one person. Which means the things that you do affect everything else. You're a part of something bigger, and you want to be able to perceive that in a way that you haven't been able to before. Maybe some of you are just really recognizing that you've drilled down a little bit too hard in the detail of things. Maybe I just need to step back for a second, regain my perspective in some sort of way. But what starts off here as an increasing excitement, a feeling of safety, a feeling of a desire to construct something that feels good to you, and a willingness to upset the apple cart to do it because it is a reflection of your self-worth. We've got the King of Pentacles here who is starting to make plans. Taurus energy. It's delayed gratification, yes, for sure. But it's the creation of a plan. It's putting things in motion, a certain number of prescribed steps to get you to where you are. But it's not so rigid that it's in some ways an amplification of that detail-oriented thinking that sometimes can see you led astray. It's a bigger picture idea of what the future's going to hold. And because it's Taurus, And we've already mentioned this because of the Tower card. It might involve where you live, the house that you live in, the area that you live in. It could be something to do with where you work. Taurus is all about work, right? But it feels like at the heart of it, it is a practical, material expression of the change that has happened on a pretty fundamentally emotional, spiritual, psychological, internal platform. It's like, this is how I'm feeling myself. And so now I'm going to do something about it. Now I'm going to bring that out there into the world so everybody else can see it. I'm getting ready to have an adventure. Sagittarius is all about adventures. But even if we take the kind of Jupiterian aspect of Sagittarius, which is actually where Sagittarius derives a lot of its it's more ninth house stuff, really. Ignore that. We're back to this idea of expansion instead of contraction. Like, the safety isn't found in contraction anymore. The safety seems to be something more like what you're carrying around with you. Like I said, like Virgo's kind of sweeping everything and being, yeah, have a little bit of safety over here. This is good. This is outside of me. I've just now created, like, I've just expanded in some way my comfort zone. And I now understand that there's a little bit of safety just here and there's a little bit of safety over there. And if I've done it once, I can do it again. I can do it over there, or I can do it back here. Do it that way. You seem to be pushing at the edges of things, Virgo. And rather than feeling a sense of terror about this, I feel like with every step that you're taking in a particular direction, there's an increase in confidence. There's a sense of drawing closer to what may be just an abstract idea, just a feeling of what future you is going to be doing and feeling and whatnot. You might be taking up some sort of new hobby. You might be taking up some sort of new discipline of sorts. Learning something new. You might have decided that you want to go travelling, for example. But whatever it is, I think the emphasis is on the increased experience. You genuinely seem to be wanting to broaden your horizons. We're back to expansion again. Broaden your horizons rather than contract them. So when we come into November, we've got the Queen of Wands. Now, we see movement here in the Knight of Wands, a very action-oriented card, as the whole of the Wand suit is, actually. Here is the excitement. Here is the movement. Here is this is what I'm doing to start bringing these new experiences towards me. And then you have the Queen of Wands. So there's a progression there. And I often characterize the Queen of Wands as being the internal, well, all of the queens actually, as the internal subjective experience of whatever suit it is that they represent, right? It's how you make sense of something. So here the Queen of Wands would be, what the fuck am I going to do and how am I going to do it? Like, these questions that you're asking yourself. This is the feeling that I want to have in future. Maybe for some of you, you have actually come to a conclusion that you want to see a bit of the world. You want to do this, you want to do that, you want to do the other. How am I going to make this happen? Because the Queen of Wands is confidence. It's dynamic ability, you know, it's a willingness to be seen. It's about being bold and charismatic and courageous. It's about feeling for the first time in a very long time like you could actually do the thing. Just put it like that. You could actually do the thing. And there's no sense of fear with it. There might be a bit of nervous tension with it. But for the most part, the stronger aspect of this is, I could actually do this. And we have the Knight of Swords. So you've got the two fastest moving knights in the tarot, both of them on the table. Both of them, it seems to me, playing a supportive role to this longer term plan that you're creating here with the King of Pentacles. And you're looking to further yourself along the way to your goal. Now, the Knight of Swords principally talks about the transmission of information. It can talk to, it can speak to conversations that you will have in November that are exceedingly important, right? And these conversations occur because of your willingness to put it out there. Put yourself out there, put your plans out there, put your desires out there, put the things that you want to do out there in the open so that people can see them. That's a possibility. There might be some really quite important conversations going on this month. But the other thing that it speaks about is the transmission of information around one's own fucking brain, right? It can be the way that you think about things. And at every point where you, it seems to me, give yourself permission to think about things a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, there is a corresponding increase in confidence. Like I said, you seem to be very disinterested in contraction this month. Very disinterested in looking for what has been your traditional route to safety. You seem to be very grounded, very balanced, and very much in a reciprocal, that's the word that I was looking for, state of giving and taking. Or giving and receiving, rather, that's the better way to put it. There's a willingness to put yourself out there, and there's also a willingness to consider what's coming back. It's almost like for a little while here, Virgo, you seem to be forgetting that your natural inclination is to get lost in the detail of things. So it's so bizarre, like every sign that I've done so far, and were you number 5? Number 5. All seem to be having these messages of, it's time to power up. Right? I've done Leo, I've done Sagittarius, I've done Scorpio, Aquarius, and now I'm doing you. There's a powering up vibe to all of the signs. And it's not entirely comfortable for all of the signs. I would say, in fact, that it is you and Aquarius who seem to have kind of hit a vibe, you hit a wave, and you're going with it to see where it goes. There's considerably less discomfort here for you than there has been for the other signs, where you and Aquarius. You're catching your wave and you're going with it. Now, I think this is really important because this is a stellar fucking combination for making things happen. You'll note that we stop at the Queen of Wands. So it isn't like, I think, whatever it is that you're planning to do is going to get done in November. King of Pentacles, delayed gratification. This is a plan that we are making for the future. The King of Wands not being here means it's not quite time to kick this into a high gear and actually make it happen. But everything that is important in the foundation of making sure that the ground is ready, is prepared before you do whatever thing that is, well, this is all kicking off quite hard. And what's really amazing about the whole fucking reading is I am not feeling a shred of fucking fear. A bit of curiosity, a little bit of excitement, maybe a little bit of anxiety, but it isn't outweighing everything else. It isn't sufficient to stop your progress, to stop you moving forwards, and it's certainly not sufficient to stop you from serious contemplation of the idea of just chucking the chips up in the air and seeing where they land. The advice for you is to put yourself out there this month, because you will get back what you put out. Like I said, the reciprocity is really strong here. And all of it is feeding the plan. All of it seems relevant this month. And I don't think that it is likely that come the end of November, this energy is going to simmer down and that you are going to move back into default ways of being with things. I think what you've done, like I said, is expanded your comfort zone. You've shifted where your center is. And reference to the bigger picture is emboldening you to keep going. This is amazing. Right, I'm going to go over and do the extended now. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can join me on Vimeo, you can join me on Circle. It's entirely up to you. And I will, of course, be very, very happy to see you there. If this is where we part ways, though, I think it would be a really interesting exercise, Virgo, for you to consider the possibility that this might be who you are now. And all reference to previous versions of yourself kind of held in abeyance and put to one side for a moment while we explore life on this kind of level for the sake of a month. Let's see how it feels. Because I think what's happened here is you've kind of reached a crunch point internally with the contraction. And it can't really get any denser. And it's kind of pinging apart again here. But rather than this being a source of tremendous anxiety for you, it's almost like, oh, okay, I can breathe a little bit now. I'm actually kind of excited about this thing, whatever it is that's coming up. Like, lean into this energy this month, Virgo. Because I think you're going to be truly startled by how these things begin to escalate and how quickly your plan seems to come together in the best tradition of the paths that are meant for us. There always seems to be that almost kind of like parting of the sea in front of us. Fascinating. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.